Bharatam Mahabharatam Dharma Adharma Sangharshanam Pakshi Prani Manava Cha Deva Dharma Adharma Panchalika Jnana Prabhasita Divya Jivam Sarve Sarva Maha Amritam Sarve Sarva Maha Amritam Bharatam
Namaskaram, Sadhguru. There were many moments in the past few days where I felt like if Mahabharata is alive within me. I felt like if I was either transported there or Mahabharata was transported here. Am I hallucinating?
It must be the decor.
Other than the decor.
You see, real-time fighting they were doing. So all those things, the idea is to transport you there. The idea of telling a story, the idea of listening to a story is so that you can walk through the story. If that doesn't happen, you are sitting aloof from the story. Sitting aloof from the story, you may analyze the story, you may dissect the story, you will not experience it. With analysis, you may write a paper on it, but your life will not become enriched by it. If your life has to be enriched, you have to go through what people have gone through. We cannot, in your life, no matter what you do, what kind of trouble you get into, you will still not go through what these people are going through in their lives, isn't it? It's too much drama. Yes or no? Whatever kind of blunders you may do, still you cannot go through that kind of drama. So don't miss the drama, go through it, free of cost. Without injury, we can go through a battle, what more? Yes? Without shame, we can go through all the shame. Without raging with hatred and somebody not doing anything to us, we can go through all that because There are two ways to grow. One, by sheer transcendence, that you stand above everything, untouched by the ways of life. Then you should have become a monk. This is a direct path, that you're not interested in what happened in Mahabharata. You just sit here, roll your eyeballs up, you're somewhere else. Mahabharata means nothing to you, if you want to take the truth. But you have not taken the truth, you've gotten into life. Now you better go through Mahabharata. Otherwise, you will create those situations. You go through it and you grow out of it. Otherwise, you may think these are all horrible situations. But please understand, every one of these emotions which led them to grand disasters exist within you, and they are leading you to minor disasters because you're a minor human being compared to them. If you were a very big one, you would have gotten into big trouble. Because you're small, you get into small trouble, but small trouble does not create any less misery than big troubles. Yes or no? Small troubles, do they create less misery than big troubles? Small troubles create as much misery as big troubles. Yes or no? Yes, always yes. Life is like that. So, this is an opportunity to go through the situation, to live through the situation and grow out of it. Not to sit aloof and analyze, okay, is this guy good guy, is that guy bad guy? No, all these people exist within you. All these emotions exist within you. All these strengths exist within you. All these weaknesses exist within you. Have you empowered your strength or your weaknesses is the question of your life, isn't it? Which one have you empowered within yourself? Accordingly you're experiencing. So Mahabharata is not… it's not for entertainment we created all this. We thought you'll grow out of many things in the process of living through what other people lived through. Because if you have to live through it, it would be life-wise too expensive. Even to simulate a live-through, it's pretty expensive. If you have to live through it in life, it would be too expensive, isn't it? Not just in terms of money, in terms of life it would be too expensive. So, a budget Mahabharata, go through it well.
I've always been intrigued by the Bhagavad Gita, but never been able to comprehend much of it. I was wondering if you could talk about the essence of the Gita.
You are lucky, you read it and you couldn't comprehend. I never got around to read it.
We've been taught, we've been listening to stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, from our parents, grandparents, but when it comes to the Gita, it's a sacred text just kept there. So I was wondering if you could talk about the essence of the Gita.
So this is always the thing. People are always interested in the teaching, not in the example of the teacher. People are interested in the Gita, not in the way Krishna lived. The way he lived is the teaching. For those who did not get it, for them he had to verbalize. So if you get the spirit behind what he is doing, if you get the wisdom behind what he is doing, if you understand the intelligence behind what he is doing, the context of what he is doing, you know the Gita. I was speaking to somebody in the public domain and I had to admit that I have not read the Gita. I said, now we're doing this Mahabharata program, that was about 4 months ago. I said, we're doing this Mahabharata program, now I am compelled to read it. But I still passed Mahabharata program without reading it. That's why I skipped. So, there is no better insight into the teaching of anybody than the way he lives. If he lives one way and teaches another way, he's a fake teacher, isn't it? Just look at Krishna's life, don't believe his words, who knows whether it's his words, somebody added up? We don't know. Look at his life carefully, unprejudiced, unjudgmental. Just look at the life in the context of his existence, you will definitely know the Gita. If you want to know what Isha is about, don't just listen to the audio cassettes or video CDs. You just look at the way everything is being done, that is the teaching. If you don't get it, you want another teaching that you can take away with you. No. Life's wisdom does not come that way. That whenever you want, in an emergency, you can open a book and there'll be answer. Life's wisdom will not come that way to you. And such a wisdom will not stand good to see you through this life and beyond. You need to internalize it, knowing it as life, not knowing it as words written in a book. Somehow, I have great regard and respect for whatever he might have said, but somehow I never got around to read it. It's not that I'm allergic to it, I never got around to read it. If I had time, I'll read the newspaper, because with the newspaper, I know how people are operating today in the world. If I have little more time, I'll open up a news magazine, because by looking at what everybody is saying and doing, you know the consciousness of the world. Anyway, I don't believe anything that anybody says. I look at them the way they are. So, I want you to look at Krishna the way he is. Don't listen to his words. The same goes for everything.
In Tamil Nadu, in certain houses, they say it is inauspicious to keep the dice at home, or even to keep the picture of the war where Krishna and Arjuna is there is inauspicious, or they don't even read Mahabharata at home. Why is it so the culture in Tamil Nadu is like that, probably in southern India, why is it?
Not everywhere in southern India, it's only in Tamil Nadu, only in certain parts of Tamil Nadu essentially, particularly in the south. Huh? Even in the north? Really? No, huh? In everybody's house, Krishna and Arjuna in the battlefield. It's not so in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and all, we do keep it. I didn't read it, but we do keep it. Is this so in the north? Yes. Oh. Why is that? Somebody very wise in your house must have said that, because they read it and they don't want you to read it. Because you may understand them by reading the Mahabharata. Really, if you read Mahabharata, you understand everybody who's around you. Huh? If you don't have it in the house, where do you read it? In a public library? The complete epic is… maybe the houses were too small for that. Whatever, I don't know. Anyway, in south, there is a certain aspect. Not keeping the dice is because if you have the dice, you will want to roll it, of course. And of course, you would like to believe that you are an expert, just like Yudhishthira did. And even today, when people play dice and now cards have come, most people don't play these games without money being involved. Yes? There is a stake. They put something on the stake. The nature of gambling is such, you always believe if you lose, that the next one you're going to make it. That's what they're trying to depict with Yudhishthira. He thinks, okay, one more risk, if I take it, I'll get back everything. This is the nature of gambling. Otherwise, nobody would gamble. If they lost once, they would come home. It's not like that. They think, okay, last time I lost, but I'm going to make it this time. A friend of mine was working in the race course in Mysore at one time. And many times I went there to either pick him up or drop him, And I never understood what is the thing about horses running and these guys going and sitting every weekend and watching horses running, horses running, horses running on a track. But you should see the passion, oh my God. And this time around, about a month ago, in Mysore city, the golf course and the race course are together. We were golfing and I heard a roar. Oh, they screamed. I thought, what happened? They said, oh, races. I said, wow, races are there, let's watch it. They said, no, not here, they're just watching the television and they're betting and they're screaming. Races are happening somewhere, I don't know where, Bangalore or I don't know, Mumbai or wherever. These guys are sitting in Mysore and a big crowd, about something like 1,200, 1,300 people sitting there and watching a television and they're betting on it. It's such a big thing, and you must see the other kinds of betting. The matka, the nothing, just on numbers, on New York cotton prices in India, people bet millions and millions of dollars across India. Cricket matches in India goes into like even $100 million or more per match. So, that is the nature of gamble. If you keep this at home, you will want to roll it. Or if you play with your family, you could end up with a big fight, that is the nature of the game. So, and another thing is, once you get into it, I have known friends when I couldn't believe it how they would do this. I have known friends who would sit, they would hire a room, they would rent a room in a hotel, 6, 8, 10 of them will sit in this hotel room and non-stop it is, you understand? 2 days, 3 days, non-stop. If they feel sleepy, they'll go rest right there and come back. Food is served there, the game won't stop. 3 days, 4 days, till everything is emptied, everything they have is lost, they won't stop. Because that is the nature of the gambling. So, for this reason and for what happened to Yudhishthira, he brought himself all this distress upon himself and his family because of gambling. To control the gambling instinct, they said no dice, because dice rolling was the only form of gambling at that time. So they said that. Now there are many other forms of doing it, that's different. People are doing it on the internet, so And another thing about South India, South is there is a history behind this. The first Aryan invasions happened somewhere between 8,500 to 9,000 years ago. That is when people started coming from across Himalayas to Indian subcontinent. When they came here, this was paradise for them because climate is good, no extremities, rich land, great rivers, no snow, no excess of desert or snow or this, that, nothing. Everything is like this, temperature variation is within 8 to 15 degrees maximum. Everything comfortable, land is rich, water, lot of wildlife. So when they came and saw this place, it was the place, and above all, gold. Gold was like everything. Gold was like simply everywhere. You will see, not that long ago, even in recent times, something like 1,500 years ago, travelers who came from outside report, gold and diamonds were sold, gold nuggets and diamonds were sold on the street side without any security, without anything, which could not be done anywhere else in the world, because it was so abundant. That is what fired all the European expeditions, you know. All the Columbuses, Vasco da Gamas took off because they heard about the gold and they tasted the spice. With the tongue hanging out, they wanted to find India, because the spice. Has it gotten you? Those who come from outside the country in the last 4 days, has the spice gotten you? Because you need to understand this. The European culture had never tasted anything spicy in their life. They just ate everything salted, that's all. No spice at all. They've never seen it, they've never known it. First time when you taste spice, life explodes into a different dimension of experience. And the Western Ghats were known as the spice mountains because spice just grew wild, even today. It just grew wild, not one, 100 different varieties of spice. So spice and gold spice, you heard that. So the gold was one thing, and another thing was these were settled communities. They had built cities at that time. Between India-Pakistan border, particularly in the area of Gujarat, there have been excavations which are 1300 years old, 13,000 years old, and they have cities. Unfortunately, it is in a disputed area where constantly these two nations have been fighting. Not much excavation has happened. Very little has happened. Some historians have written fantastic, kind of interpretations, they've not seen everything. The iconographic proof, which is very much established in the British Natural History Museum, says there were properly manufactured coins with the image of Shiva, which are 12,000 years old, in a yogic posture, sitting like this. Rudra sitting in a yogic posture with a bull standing next to him, 12,000-year-old coins are present even today. Because they had established cities, how this happened is just this. These are Aryans who came from outside. They live in harsh lands, so they're nomadic in nature, they move. Because of this, for them, fire became their guiding post. And when you're a nomad, you always look up. You have no interest in the earth. They always looked up for their hopes, for their fears, for their anxieties, for their future, for guidance, everything they looked up. You need to understand this. All the world religions have happened because of this. Because they were nomadic, they looked up at the stars. Because they have to travel, they understood the stars more and more because it was vital to know the stars to travel. Because these people here in the indigenous people of India looked at the earth, because of that, thousands of years ago they developed agriculture. They never bothered to look up. They did not know anything about navigation. They did not know how to travel the seas, but they knew how to get gold out of the land, how to get food out of the land, how to make the land rich and live there. So naturally, they lived in one place. Once they lived in one place, arts, culture, music, mathematics, all kinds of things developed, building crafts, all these things developed and they built cities. When these people did not know what is a city, what is a dwelling, when they lived in tents or slept in open and they were nomadic, when they came and saw this, and because they were always on the move, they were rough men. Because these people had settled down, they kind of softened up. So when they came, they were an easy take. And when the Aryans came, they did not know what to call them because their language was completely different. Even today, Tamil language has no basis in the Sanskrit. Almost every other language, from here across to Europe, everything has basis in Sanskrit language. But Tamil is one language which has no Sanskrit base because it was an indigenous process. And gradually, as the Aryan hordes came from the north, initially just as like bandits, later on as settlers, later on as conquerors, gradually, step by step, in the next 2,000 to 3,000 years, this happened. When this happened, gradually they pushed these people down, pushed these people down. Even in Mahabharata, there are many incidents where how they want to, completely take off the Rakshasa culture from there. They call them the Rakshasas. Rakshasa was not a negative word at that time, it's only later, in connotation it became negative. They pushed them south and pushed them south. You will see this if you just look at the people. It'll be not nice, but if you ask people from the base southeast Tamil Nadu, somebody from Karnataka, somebody from Andhra Pradesh, somebody from Madhya Pradesh, somebody from Maharashtra, somebody further up, you will see the color of the skin, the physical stature, how it changes. Because this is how people were, the two cultures met, intermingled, and this became one way, the really up north looked different, and even today it looks different. So because of this, whatever came from the Aryan culture, a small group of diehards resisted that. Even today they're resisting, okay? Even today, all the political parties in Tamil Nadu have to have the affix that it's Dravidian. Always they're Dravidian parties, otherwise there's no way they can come to political power, because still that feeling and that emotion is still strong in people. And they know, they may not know the history, but they know somewhere some exploitation happened to them. So in South India, in Tamil Nadu, they don't celebrate Ram Leela, they do Ravan Leela. And it's common for people to take the name Ravan, Ravanan, just now he's been in news, is a common name in Tamil Nadu. It's unimaginable in the north that anybody taking the name of Ravan, isn't it? Here Ravan is seen as a great king, a great devotee of Shiva. An injustice happened to him, his city was burned down in an unfair manner. That's how it is seen. So, because of this, there is a resistance of cultural imposition in the form of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and if you look at it, there is a streak of prejudice running through Ramayana and Mahabharata. They're dismissing off the indigenous people as Rakshasas, and they're saying killing them is not even a crime, you can burn them down. See, the way Kunti burned down that mother and 5 sons, there is not even a thought about it because they're Nishada people. That means they're not Aryans. A non-Aryan person, if you burn him, it means nothing. I'm saying it has been so in many parts of the world, isn't it? If you killed a black man in America, let us say 100 years ago, it was not a crime, it was just a social event, you know. So it was so here also, but a few thousand years ago. So this was there, so because of this feeling, still there is a small little bit of resistance going on about that. But it is so far away, cultures have mixed and you can't separate who is who anymore. It's too long a period to resist. You can keep Mahabharata, sense will come into you. If it doesn't come into you, if your husband or wife reads it, sense will come into them, that could help too. Yes? See, keeping people ignorant is not a solution. If people who live with you know all aspects of life and still they choose to live with you, it's easier to live with them, I'm telling you. People are living with you because they have some silly ideas about you, which you can never fulfill. Yes, they have some silly ideas about you, it is impossible to fulfill those expectations, you will be in constant trouble. Trouble does not mean something wrong has to happen, nothing right happen in your life, that is the worst trouble. Nothing happened, right or wrong, nothing happened. You avoided life, that is the worst thing that you can happen to a human being. Let something happen, that's Mahabharata. You can keep the dice, don't roll it. Okay? And don't stake anything or anybody on it. It's okay to keep the dice now, because you have found various other ways to gamble. This is not going to tempt you into go and stake your house or something else. You must keep gambling out of your house, not the dice.
Being from the West and not being so familiar with Mahabharata, my question is, did Mahabharata really happen, or is it just a story?
The ancient books that you find in this country have been categorized as 3 different categories. The Vedas, the Puranas and Itihas. Vedas are about abstract ideas. Puranas are stories of beings who are not human, about otherworldly people. Shiva's story is called Shiva Purana, not Shiva Itihas. This is very significant. We clearly say Shiva Purana, but we do not say Krishna Purana. No, Krishna Avatara, that means it happened. I've already gone through this, but anyway. So when we tell a story, in the West, if you talk about history, you're talking about somebody, let's say 2000 years ago, the nature of the Western intellect is to analyze this, try to get the facts of his life as much as possible and present it as facts and analysis. 5,000 years ago, whether somebody lived or did not live, does not make any difference in your life, isn't it? Whether Jesus existed or not, does not make any difference in your life. Whether that dimension or that quality we refer to as Jesus exists in your life or not, is what makes the difference, isn't it? So, when history is written in this country, it is written in such a way that it will always be relevant for people. The story or the events did happen, but it is said in such a way that it is not simply a factual analysis, but a live process where even after 1,000 years, if human beings read this story, it still means something to them because it is written in that context. Because his story is not important for me, my story is important for me in this life. And I want to enrich my story with his story. I don't want to burden myself with his story. History is a burden, isn't it? See, there are many historical facts in Europe. You come from Europe or America? Huh? America. So, there are many historical facts in America and in Europe which you do everything possible to hide in your history books. Yes or no? It comes out in small pieces in Hollywood movies, but the history books in America and in Europe do everything possible to hide because this is the ugliness of humanity. It is best it is hidden in many ways, but at the same time people who suffered want to keep it up because it is said as simply facts and analysis. If the same thing was said in the fashion in which Mahabharata is said, everybody should know that story so that we don't repeat those mistakes once again. So instead of carrying history as a burden on your head, you carry history as a solution in your life. That is Mahabharata. We are carrying this 5,000-year history like a solution to our lives. What says at the beginning of Mahabharata is, what is in this book could be everywhere, but what is not in this book is nowhere. Everything that a human being can go through is here in some form. It's for you to glean it out of the story, for you to grow out of the story. If you go through the story like a live process, you will become like Yudhishthira in the end, clean of all these things. If you think it is somebody else's story, sit here and analyze, is Arjuna a good guy or a bad guy, is Duryodhana a good guy or a bad guy? Unfortunately, this is so badly infected human mind today, you cannot sit here not judging anybody, even if the man died long ago and liberated you from him. He died 5,000 years ago, but you have to pass your judgment on him. This is your arrogance. This will be your downfall. That is what the last part of the story is saying. Somebody is saying, oh, I saved all these people. No, not you. It is a consequence of so many things. So don't sit here, waste your life trying to analyze people who lived here 5,000 years ago. It's just waste of time and life. We want to see how his story can enhance my story. This is Mahabharata. It is the way it is rendered which is different. Is it historically did happen? Yes, it did happen. There are places, there are events, there are buildings still. There are still certain buildings, we're still fighting over it. Yes. Before this story of Krishna being born, when Rama was there, the building, we are still fighting on that. Recently the the High Court of a certain state passed an order saying, yes, it was there and Rama was born here. And there are books in certain families which maintain lineages, and they say, I happened to meet somebody in Rajasthan, so they opened this one parchment book and they're showing, see here it is written, we are the 333rd generation in the Suryavamshis. So Rama was some 9,000 years ago, according to our book. We are here living as Suryavamshis even today. We belong to his lineage, we maintain the blood relationship. So the story definitely happened. But the way it is rendered, it's rendered in such a brilliant way so that it'll always be relevant. It will not become ancient history and we are not interested in reading. It will always be relevant. You will see in the next probably 20-30 years, Mahabharata will become very popular across the world. You watch it, I'm telling you this. You watch this and see, it will happen. And I will make sure it becomes very popular in Tamil Nadu because we are planning a truck-based drama company. 2 trucks, if they park together, it'll become stage. If it opens up, it'll have audio, lighting, works. So another 15 people travel in another van and a couple of jeeps to propagate. They will go and deliver Mahabharata just about anywhere. We want to do this, we're just looking for sponsorships. Once the sponsorships come, because the idea is not to tell somebody else's story. Story is one thing that a human being naturally wants to pay attention to. If you give them a teaching, nobody wants to listen. You tell them a story, everybody wants to listen. And modern educational research clearly says, if only science and social sciences and physical sciences and everything were rendered as stories or plays, people would learn science, would learn education, would go through the process of education without suppressing their intelligence. Right now, some of the research says if you go through from kindergarten for 20 years of formal education, 70% of your intelligence is irrevocably destroyed. That could be avoided if education was rendered as a story. You do one thing, you go into your schoolhouse and tell them A plus B equals C, do. Children will crawl under the table and disappear. The earth was soft, they will dig a tunnel and go away. That is why they fix concrete floors. But you tell them a story, they will burrow themselves from their homes and come and pop up and sit here. Yes or no? So we want to tell the story in a big way in Tamil Nadu. If the sponsorships come, it'll happen sometime in the year. And somebody was asking me, why not Maharashtra, why not something else? Yes, it's possible everywhere. It just takes… you need to understand, there are people who have the talent, but that talent is dwindling so quickly because when kings lived, they sponsored talent. Now there is nobody to sponsor talent, so everybody is becoming software engineer. Make a living, make a living, make a living. After making a living, you don't know why the hell you're living. So it's very important, as the world gets more stabilized, which it is, it's more stable than ever before. As physical well-being comes to people, it is very important that a human being explores his consciousness in whichever way possible. Not everybody is going to sit like this, eyeballs rolled up, but people's eyeballs will roll up when you tell them a story. So, we want to make Mahabharata really popular, not because it's the history of this country, because it's your story. It is everybody's story. It is not somebody's story, it's our story. Every living human being, it is the same story, isn't it? So, did it happen historically? Definitely it did.
So today our mission is to establish a higher level of consciousness. But in the Mahabharata it was to establish Dharma. I wanted to know why the difference. Thank you.
The mission that Krishna consciously takes on is, he wants to marry the spiritual process with the political system of the day. This is something probably most people wouldn't have heard of. The beautiful rendition of the dance today about Krishna. The moment you talk about Krishna, you talk about his playfulness, his love, his mischief, and beautiful things like this, romantic things like this. But that was only the first 16 years of his life. Not that after that he was not playful, not that he was not beautiful, loving, whatever, he was all those things. But he went at the purpose of his life with zeal and without a moment's break and rest. One thing that most people would not have heard of is, Krishna established over 1,000 ashrams across the northern plains of India in every kingdom. 1,000 ashrams. We haven't done that much, just one and one more, okay? He's never known for this, unfortunately, because people think the spiritual teaching is just in the Gita. When he came to the battlefield, the song of wisdom that he spoke is not all spiritual. It is politico-spiritual, if there is such a term. He's talking more about Kshatriya dharma, about how, being a warrior, he cannot go back on the hopes that people have put in him. So, he established dharma in the way he could. And in many ways, his effort to marry the spiritual process with the political system did not work. Even today, the only way spiritual process and spirituality as a culture and as a possibility can touch every human being only if the political administrations of many nations turn spiritual, only then. Otherwise, spirituality will always remain a fringe. If the presidents and the prime ministers and the ministers and the members of the parliament and these kind of people all turn spiritual, can you imagine? But it's possible, because every 5 years we can replace them, you know. Every 5 years we can change the men, so it's possible. Making the king spiritual was a much bigger challenge than making the democratic administration spiritual, because who knows, one of you could get elected. Do I see a president? Because to make the king spiritual was a much more difficult thing, because if Duryodhana is ruling for the next 40 years or 50 years, you give up your mission, to understand? It doesn't matter who is ruling today, you can still continue your mission because 2014 in India. So, everything could change. Wherever, whichever country, I'm just saying, for example. At the next election, you could have a sage sitting there, the possibility is there. Only thing is, you have to create enough sages in the world that they may get elected. A sage who is willing enough to get elected. Sage who has necessary guile to get elected. Not a sage who will sit in a mountain cave. A sage who can remain a sage even in a marketplace. That kind of a sage. And he can get elected. So, we cannot give up the mission.
Namaste, Sadhguru. Are there any other countries with a rich history written like India about the past?
Those countries which had a long and rich history, those cultures, whether you take the Norse or the Egyptian, Mesopotamian, the Incas, the Mayans, most of these cultures have gotten grounded. They are not living cultures anymore. They are only archival cultures. So if you look at it in that context, the only ancient culture which is still a living culture is India alone. So it's very important that we preserve this, otherwise we will also become archival. All the other great cultures are today only there in the archive, or they live only in the museum. They are not living cultures anymore. This is the only one. We must preserve the multi-dimensional nature of this culture. It's very, very important. I happen to be in a peace conference. This peace conference, all kinds of people, top spiritual leaders, very heavily people who are bent with awards. People… Nobody gets an award just like that, that's very rare. All others lobby for awards. Very rarely some extraordinary talent gets award simply like that. Somebody calls him and gives him an award, that is just a few people. The rest of them lobby for it, and every year they will get an award, and they're heavy with awards. All those medals, difficult to carry. So, I'm saying an assembly of hugely respected people in the country and in the world, an assembly of people like that. And we're talking about world peace. This is conducted in an ashram where the leader of that ashram is over 92 years of age at that time. And it was his dream to conduct a world peace summit. So when they came and told me he's 92 and it's been his dream and this is the event happening, you must come, I went. At one time I believed these peace conferences would do something, and I went to many. No more, I'm not going to any of the peace conferences. I'm going to all economic conferences because I see they could do something. He had his disciples and devotees. They said, for his next birthday, we will give world peace as gift. I thought, okay. In the next 1 year, they're going to offer a peaceful world to him as a gift. I appreciate their emotion. As devotees, as disciples, they feel they want to give it. I appreciate their emotion. I'm not against that. But I don't appreciate their simpleton way of approaching this. But I didn't say anything. Devotees say something like that, it's okay. A devotee is allowed a margin because he's not talking about the world, he's talking about himself, how he feels. It's okay, he feels that way. Lovers and devotees must be allowed a certain amount of margin. Isn't it so? Otherwise there'll be no love or no devotion. So I'm willing to allow all the margin that you want. But when responsible people who are supposed to be working for that, they stand up and say ridiculous things, then it becomes difficult. So people stand up and say, these are… I don't want to name them, these are huge, with millions and millions of people behind them, okay? So, the simple logic is just this. There is no world peace because we are all worshipping different gods. If all of us worship one God, world will become peaceful. All of them talking in this, I'm just thinking, am I missing something? You know, am I really missing something? In any situation, if I step into, if something is wrong, first thing I do is, have I lost it? You know, am I making something wrong? First I clear this, and once I've cleared this, there's no stopping me. So then my turn to speak came and I said, forget about one God. People who are born to the same parents within the family, more battles are going on than India and Pakistan. India, Pakistan, we have fought only 3 battles in 64 years, it's a phenomenal record. Record of amity and peace, I'm saying. Only 3 battles in 64 years. In 64 years, between brothers and sisters and husbands and wives, how many battles happen? In 64 years of life. They don't shoot, of course, but uglier things happen than shooting. No? So just because they're born to the same parents, is there going to be peace? Just because all of you worship same God, is there going to be peace? People will find some other reason to fight. And people who are professing one God, they're the people who are fighting like hell. I said, the idea of having 1,000,000 gods is, we have 33 million gods and goddesses in this country, and that happened when our population was 33 million. After that, because people from outside came and started making fun of all your gods, oh, you're worshipping cows, you're worshipping trees, you're worshipping snakes, you don't know what you're doing. And here there was nobody to tell them why it is so. People got little embarrassed about it and stopped creating gods. Say, I created 2, have you created any? If every one of you had your own god, at least you couldn't fight for him. If 100 people gather behind one god, then they're a fighting force. If each individual… this is the culture. Here you are supposed to have a Ishta Devata, a god of your choice. If you don't like any of the existing forms, you can create one. This will definitely ensure that you're peaceful. Because you got your god, he's got his god, what are you going to fight with? If this party belongs to one god, this party belongs to one god, how long will you avoid fighting? One day they will fight, isn't it? You can keep them away, you can manage them, you can police them, someday it will burst out. You can't help it. Either you must be a fake. If you don't fight, you're a fake. You believe this is God, and if they're saying that is God, how to keep quiet? You are just a fake. If you believe this is the only God, and those people are saying, no, that is also God, should you teach them a lesson or not? If you don't teach them a lesson, you are a fake. If you teach them a lesson, there'll be a war. Yes or no? Now you can create your own God. What is the problem? You like the book that you're reading. Have you seen? Mahabharat. You're going to an examination, you keep the pen and today he's your God. You want to sing a song, you better worship your microphone. The reason that we need to preserve this culture, it is one of the most valuable things on the planet right now, because this is the only culture which is not God-oriented. This is the only culture which is liberation-oriented. Anything that came from this land is not God-oriented, not heaven-oriented, it is towards your mukti. Liberation is the highest goal, God is not the highest goal. God is just a stepping stone. If you want, you can step on Him. If you can skip Him and go. It's up to you. How you are made, accordingly you do it. If you're capable of skipping and reaching your liberation, do it. If you want to do a hop skip, you are that kind of athlete, a long jumper or what's that, decathlon. So you can jump over and get there, fine. If you cannot, you want to go step by step, you climb. And we can create any kind of God you need. When you're a little child, we can create a God that you need as a child. When you become adolescent, we can create another God. You become middle-aged, we have another God. For old age, we have another God. For every emotion that you have, every thought that you have, we have a God or a goddess for you. If you want to make use of this phenomenal array of gods and goddesses, is it all made up? It's not just made up. We know the technology of God-making. It will function as divinity in your life. It is not just belief system. It is not belief system. It will function as living divinity in your life, because here we are not looking at worshipping God, we are always looking at how to become one. This culture is not about looking up to God, this culture is seeing how you want to become and live as a divinity. People raise to a level where they refer to as Bhagwan. That is the idea. Not always looking up to Bhagwan, you look up because you want to go up. You want to raise this piece of life to that dimension of existence where there is no distinction between who you are and what you refer to as divinity. So, the very nature of the culture is a scientific process. And fortunately, we have not taken care of this science for the last 600, 700 years properly. It has become… it is not time relevant, the way it is expressed. The science is still time relevant, but the expression is not time relevant because there has been a gap of a few generations. They did not… if it was every generation, if it was being transmitted live, it would have been time relevant. But because of oppression, because of conquerors who came in and it went underground, lot of things which went underground never came up. Many people who went underground never came out again, they got buried right there. The reason why you see so much of a certain form of yogic practice in the name of Tibetan Buddhism today is because when invasions happened, the invaders mainly took the plains. The first thing that they did was burn the spiritual places. So they all went into the mountains. When they found the mountains too harsh for them to live, they crossed over and settled on the plateau, which you call as Tibet today. You just look at Tibetan Buddhism, where is Buddha in it? You have to search for Buddha. You will find all kinds of gods and goddesses with mispronounced names which are from here, full of ritual which came from this land, full of practices which came from this land, because this was established by people who left the plains and went into the mountains just to avoid the conquerors scorching them out. So it is very significant that we preserve this as a live thing. When I say preserve, it need not be protected, it needs to be lived. If you protect it, it will become archival. You have to live it. That's what we are trying to display to you. In the form of decor, in the form of food, in the way we do things here, we are trying to make the science of living as spiritual beings. Spirituality is not a teaching, it's the way you exist. For you to exist that way, you need to create the necessary ambience. Simple thing. I've been telling people right now, thousands of meditators have taken it up in Tamil Nadu. I want all of you to take this up. When you pick up the phone, what do you say? Hello? If you're speaking in English language, you say hello. If you're speaking in some other language, why don't you say namaste, namaskaram, something? What's your problem? Because when you say namaskar, it's a very profound statement. Hello doesn't have that, but you say it because somebody has taught you. I mean, we brought this, see, till the English got established. They came in almost 300 years ago, but they got established only in the last 150, leaving the 65 years, 150 years before independence. About 100 years ago, when were your holidays in a month? Do you know? In this country, the holidays were always 3 days, 1 day before Paurnami, 1 day after Paurnami and Paurnami. Amavasya days, Shivaratri days, Ekadashi days, these were the holidays, because it was spiritually relevant for us to do sadhana on those days. Now what are you doing on a Sunday? You don't know what the hell to do on a Sunday, so you're watching the television and eating potato chips throughout the day? I'm saying the whole culture was designed to assist your spiritual sadhana, but we don't have the courage to go back to that in the world outside. At least in your homes, you do that. At least in your homes, you do that. If you're running a business, you can do it. Every employee of yours will be very happy that they have a holiday when others don't have it. Yes, and instead of getting 4 days in a month, they get 3 days in a stretch on the Paurnami day, they will be happy, I'm telling you. If it's your own little business, you can do it, isn't it? Yes or no? If you have business which has to sync with the outside world, every day there's transaction, you can't do it. But in your home you can do it, isn't it? To whatever extent you can. At least you can say namaste to people. You know what this means? If you go into the temple, this is what you do. If God appears in front of you live, what will you do? This is what you will do. If this man or woman comes in front of you, what do you do? This is what you will do. If you see a beautiful mountain, what do you do? This is what you do. If you see a tree, what do you do? This is what you do. If you see a cow, what do you do? This is what you do. Not just that, even if you see inanimate objects, this is what you do. If Shiva appears also, this is what we do. If a laborer here, whose name may be Shiva or whatever else, to him also this is what we do. If a very knowledgeable person comes, this is what we do. If an idiot comes, this is what we do. What this means is, it doesn't matter who he is. It doesn't matter what it is, whether you're a man, woman or a rock, it doesn't matter to me. As far as I'm concerned, every moment of my life, I want to recognize that in every piece of creation, the hand of Creator is active. To that hand I bow down, bow down, bow down. Now you are setting up an ambience for your evolution. You are setting up an ambience for your evolution. Without the necessary ambience, you sit down in the morning and shake like this, you will not move very quickly, it'll take a long time. You need to set up the ambience. Even if I give you a super seed which can produce a tremendous kind of crop for you, if you keep it on the rock, it's not going to grow, isn't it? You have to prepare the soil. The necessary ambience for growth has to be there, otherwise it's not going to happen. So creating that necessary ambience for spiritual growth of a human being is what you see as culture here. It is distorted in many ways, but still the fundamental thread is not gone. If we lose that thread, there will be nothing of worth in this country. There will be nothing of worth in this country if you lose that one spiritual thread, because that is the greatest thing we can offer to the world. The other parts of the world have done other kinds of achievements. In physical sciences, in technology, they've reached to many places. This can be the greatest fabulous exchange of people and knowledge base. We have the knowledge of the internal, they have done well with the external. Isn't this a perfect formula for everybody to live well in the world? Isn't it a perfect formula? The two sets of people have two different dimensions of knowledge. If both of us see that we have need for each other, isn't this a perfect situation to live well? But people may choose to fight instead of living well. That is because if we do not create the necessary ambience for spiritual growth in the world, you teach as many damn practices as you want, you build as many damn temples as you want, people will not go very far. You have to create ambience of life where every moment there is a reminder, there is a reminder, there is a reminder. You must do this. In the mega classes, we're just trying to bring it now to the people. You must do this. Now you've been in Mahabharata, you understand, I believe you understand, the significance of grace or being in grace. It makes all the difference. If you want to be the necessary, if you want to have the necessary receptivity for grace, one simple thing that you do is, when you get up in the morning, the first thing that you do is, you do what Krishna did. It worked for him. What did you do? Sadhguru, nobody, in my house, they are like… Especially if your house is full of idiots, it's all the more reason that you smile. That if your house is full of problems, at least you be a solution, isn't it? Yes or no? If your house is full of problematic people, isn't it very important that you function as a solution? No, you also want to be a bigger problem? So, it's okay. I'm not saying smile at somebody, smile at the ceiling. At least it didn't fall on you in the night. Don't think it's a joke, it can fall on you. Small changes in the way the earth functions, the house that is protecting you could become your grave. Isn't it happening to thousands of people somewhere else? Isn't it happening? The very house that you live in can turn into your grave if Mother Earth just does… She's going carefully. If she just does a little twist, your house will become your grave. Yes or no? So tomorrow morning, your house is still a home. Isn't it enough occasion to smile at least, if not jump up and dance? Isn't it enough occasion at least to smile? Let me see some. Smile. And suppose there is somebody around you, nobody around you, no problem. Absolutely no problem. If somebody around you, there's something to manage. Nobody around you, nothing to manage. The liberty of it, the freedom of it, nothing to manage. Wake up in the morning, nobody is there to think you've gone crazy. I'm saying set the ambience for your growth. If you do not set the ambience of joy and reverence within you, reverence does not mean towards something, towards somebody, it's a way to be. It's a certain way to be. Reverence means you are in a receptive mode because you understand life happens best with grace. You are constantly in a receptive mode. You don't want to give somebody a piece of your mind, you want to take in the intelligence of creation into you. You're planning many times, today I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. Don't give the piece of your mind. If you keep giving away, what will you be left with? You'll be left with nothing. 18th February 2012, 10 o'clock. For the first time it's happening, 84th Yuga. Wow! We are the first people to witness it. Something wrong with 11 o'clock? So why don't we do it at 11 o'clock too? Do this, I'm telling you, every hour. Every moment you should do it, but to start with at least every hour in your waking moments. 10 o'clock. You're still living. From 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, do you know how many people, thousands died in this world? You and me are still living, isn't it fabulous? And the most amazing thing is human beings exist here as if they're going to live forever. No, between 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, many more thousands of people are going to die. If we are still living till 11, wow! Isn't it fantastic? Please appreciate this. That is this culture. This culture constantly creating an ambience for your growth. This is not a belief system. We don't have a God. We can make whatever kind of God we want. We have understood the technology of God-making. We not only just create a form and believe in it, we energize it. We are not looking up, we are looking inward. This culture has to spread across the world, otherwise the modern technology which has made a man into a superman is going to destroy the world. If idiots become super, they become super idiots, you must understand this. If arrogant people become super, they become super arrogant. If hateful people become super, they become super hateful, isn't it? The modern technology is empowering people indiscriminately. It is time. It is time. We've moved into the right yuga. We are into the right yuga right now, that this is an ascending time for human consciousness. But, oh, human consciousness is going to go up. Nothing goes up or down unless you work for it. If you're willing to work for the world's consciousness to go up, there are many things I can give you. I have lots of employment. Only thing is I don't pay you, that's all. I have a lot of positions vacant, anybody wants to take… You want to be the CEO of spreading consciousness in the world, I'll make you that. Only thing is, I'll see that you're fed, I see that you're treated well wherever you go, I see that you're welcomed and embraced by people. But we don't put you through the indignity of standing in front of me to collect money. I don't want to put you to shame that you're such a beggar, you did what you care for just for the sake of money. That does not mean you will not eat well, that does not mean you will not live well. You will. In the embrace and love of millions of people, it's better to live that way than live on the security of every 30 days you get a packet. Or at least be focused on one person's consciousness rising. If you can't take the world, if you can't even take the segment of the world, at least take up yourself. That much you owe to yourself, isn't it? You should not deny yourself that. So these 8 days has essentially been an exploration to make you see the significance of grace in one's life. If grace is not available to you, or you are not available to grace, it does not matter how much money you have, how much wealth you have, whatever nonsense you have, you will not live a beautiful life. This is not my curse. I will never curse you, and I have taken away the power to curse from you. But this is the way life works, this is the dharma, this is the law of life. If you go by it, life will be a beautiful flowering. If you don't go by it, you will unnecessarily struggle with forces which are way beyond, because they are the forces of creation. you cannot fight them, you can only ride them. It's like surfing. You ride the wave. If you try to fight it, it'll smother you. This is simple sense. This is not some kind of philosophy. This is simple sense. If you want to go on the ocean, you ride the wave, you don't fight the wave. And what we are talking about is not an ocean, we are talking about creation, we are talking about cosmos, we are talking about cosmic forces where an ocean is like a drop of water. An ocean is just a drop of water in the cosmic space. In this, you learn to ride the wave. Dharma is just that. How to ride the wave, how not to be smothered by the wave.
भारतं महाभारतं धर्म अधर्म संघर्षणम् पक्षि प्राणि मानव च देव धर्म अधर्म पाञ्चालिका ज्ञानप्रभासित दिव्यजीवम् सर्वे सर्वमहामृतम् सर्वे सर्वमहामृतं भारतम्
Human beings who get labeled, when we look back, some people get labeled as good, some people as great, some people as bad, some people as evil. How does this happen? There is no such thing as goodness and badness as such. It is just that when crucial moments present themselves in front of us, at that moment what kind of choices we make us seem like either good or bad. Some will repeatedly make those kind of choices which are harmful to themselves and everybody around them. Some will make choices constantly being concerned about what will happen because of their choices. This is all is the difference between Duryodhana and Yudhishthira or just about anybody or anybody. What kind of choices do you make at different situations that are presented to you in your life? Are the choices springing from exclusiveness or inclusiveness? Are the choices springing from the needs of the body or the nature of the being? Are the choices springing from your individuality or the universal nature of life The choice is just this, that you can choose to become smaller or larger. One who functions as a larger being gets judged as a great being. One who functions in between becomes a good being. One who functions from the smallness of who he is becomes a bad being. Karna, karmic burden of life's forgotten, make him mean by things unseen. A good man who is no good, a great being only when he stops being, a fate's child, best untouched. Karna is a sweet mango gone bad. He's a wonderful human being, gone totally bad, because he invests in bitterness. He does not know what is his parentage, but the people who brought him up with great love. Radha, his mother, and Adhiratha loved him immensely, brought him up very well, the way they knew it. Always he remembered how much his mother loved him. He says, that is one person who loved me for who I am. Wherever he went, people referred to him as Sutta, only because he was trying to be his ambitions as to where he wants to be. But whichever way, out of his competence and the will of fate, he becomes a king, but still he's unhappy. He nourishes bitterness within himself. He's a cribber right through his life. He cribs all the time that he is being referred to as a Sutta. It doesn't matter. If you look at his life, as far as he is concerned, he was a charioteer's son. The fact of it is, he's a charioteer's son and now he's become a king. He should be really happy, but he is not. He's always bitter that somebody refers to him as something. It doesn't matter what somebody refers to him, he's become a king, and in many ways, a big king's sidekick. You know, Duryodhana holds him dear and he takes advice from him, and he has everything that life can offer, but he's bitter about his so-called low birth. This bitterness makes a wonderful human being into such a nasty and ugly character in the story. He is a great human being. He will show his greatness in many ways as the story progresses. I think I'll break off from the story and talk about people. When Kunti was just 14 years of age and she pleased Durvasa and he gave her the mantra that she can call any god that she wants, she just wanted to try it out. She went out and looked, the sun was coming up gloriously, and she said, I want the sun god. The sun god came and impregnated her, and she bore a child. And being an unwed mother of 14 years of age, she did not know how to face the social situation, so she put this child in a wooden box and let him float in the river. She struggled with it, but she is a woman with a certain sense of purpose. When the purpose is clear to her, she will do anything, you will see as time goes. Her sense of purpose sits like cold liquid in her heart. She let this infant float away, not knowing where he will go and not knowing where he went. So this little infant floated away down the river. Adhiratha, a charioteer in Dhritarashtra's palace, was at the river and he saw this box, a very ornamental-looking box, and he picked it up. When he opened, he saw this little infant and he was childless and he was so happy and he thought it's God's gift for him, and he went and took it to his wife Radha. Both of them are overjoyed and overwhelmed. Looking at the nature of the box, they knew this box cannot be from an ordinary home, this is from a palace. Some queen or some king have left this baby and they do not know who, but they're too glad they got this child. And this child came and filled their childless life. So they took this child and nurtured him, and they found certain strange qualities about him. That is, as an infant, he had earrings around his thing, golden earrings, and he had a kind of a natural armor around his chest. And the child looked like a phenomenal child, a child of destiny in many ways, looked more than ordinary, and they were too glad to have this child, and Radha brought him up with utmost love. And Adhiratha, being a charioteer, wanted to teach Karna how to drive a chariot, but Karna's heart raged to become an archer. He came to Drona, but Drona looked at him and said, "You are not a Kshatriya, I cannot accept you here. This is a school for Kshatriyas." And by then, he was being referred to as Sutaputra. It's a derogatory term to say that somebody is low-born. So this name stuck to him, that he is a Sutaputra, and it stung him. Every time this was used, it stung him so deeply that he became meaner and meaner and meaner. This discrimination made this man, who was a very honest and forthright man, became extremely mean because of constant usage of this one discriminatory and derogatory word, that he is a Sutaputra. When people went on repeating Sutaputra, his meanness, the barometer of his meanness rose higher and higher, and he exhibited such levels of meanness that it was uncharacteristic of him. So he went, because they were rejecting him, because he's not a Kshatriya. He went to Parashurama, who is the greatest martial art teacher. When I say martial arts, don't think only hand combat, they were teaching every kind, particularly archery. Karna wants to become a great archer too. He went to Parashurama and he knew Parashurama will not accept anybody if they are Kshatriyas or anything, he will accept only Brahmanas. So he wore a sacred thread, a fake thread, and he went in his eagerness to learn. He went and told Parashurama, "I am a Brahmana." Parashurama took him as a disciple and taught him everything. Karna learnt everything super fast because of his natural skill and competence. And Parashurama was heavily pleased with his disciple. He had not seen another disciple who learnt things so fast. He gave him everything that he knew. And Parashurama had turned old. He has lived through generations of people. And in the afternoon, when they were training in the forest, he felt tired and faint. He said, "I want to lie down." So when the guru went to lie down, Karna went, sat down and gave him his lap. And Parashurama put his head on Karna's lap and napped in the afternoon. In the forest, a boring worm crawled up to Karna's thigh and started boring into his thigh, in the inside of his thigh where he could not put his hand and remove it, unless he disturbed his guru's sleep. Parashurama was napping, an old man, snoring and sleeping, but this worm kept boring into his thigh, and he was in extraordinary pain, but he held on and he just sat, because he did not want to disturb Parashurama's sleep. He simply sat there and he bled. The blood slowly touched Parashurama's ears and the dampness of it woke him up. He woke up and he saw he was full of blood. "Whose blood is this?" he asked. Karna said, "It is my blood, not yours, it is me." What happened? He saw there was a wide open wound. The boring worm had bored into his thigh muscle, but this boy was just sitting there unmoving. Parashuram looked at him and said, "You cannot be a Brahmana, because if you were a Brahmana, you would have screamed. For mosquito bites, you would scream. You must be a Kshatriya. To take this kind of wound and not even wince, not even move a little bit, you must be a Kshatriya. Have you lied to me? You are not a Brahmana." He said, "Please don't be angry with me. Yes, I am not a Brahmana." And Parashurama flew into a rage, "You idiot! You think you can come here, wear a sacred thread falsely and deceive me into getting all this out of me? and here is my curse. Karna begged, please, I am not a Kshatriya also. I am a Sutraputra, I am not a Brahmana, that's true. It's only half a lie. Parashurama was not listening to any of these things. The moment he saw the wound, he rightly presumed that he is a Kshatriya. And he said, you have deceived me. You will enjoy what I have taught you, but when it really matters, you will forget the mantras that you need, and that will be your end. Karna fell at his feet and begged, please don't do this, I am not a Kshatriya and I had no intention of deceiving you. It is just that I have been dying to learn and nobody is willing to teach me. You are the only one who would allow a non-Kshatriya to learn. Please. Then Bhargava's or Parashurama's temperatures came down and he said, okay, but still you lied. You shouldn't have lied. You should have explained. You should have debated with me. You shouldn't have lied to me. So I cannot take back my curse. But I see your longing is not for archery, your longing is not for kingdoms, your longing is not for power, your longing is just for glory and you shall have it. People will always remember you as a glorious warrior, but you will neither have power nor kingdom, nor will you be known as the greatest archer, but your glory will live for always because that's all you're longing for. So with this curse on him, Karna wanders on, despondent, happy that he's received all this, happy with his own talent, but where to find expression? Unless you're a Kshatriya, you're not going to enter into your battle, you're not going to enter into a competition. You can shoot anything blind, but you can't show off, because what you're seeking is glory, and glory is still not possible for you. Despondent, came and sat, walked down south, sat on the seashore, somewhere in the present state of Orissa, somewhere near Konark. It is in his memory, and considering this is why the Konark temple, the sun temple was built. He came to that point where the sun's grace could be received at its best, at that latitude. He came near Konark and went into sadhana, an austerity, where he sat in meditation for long hours, for days on end. There was nothing to eat, but he sat hungry. When he got very hungry, he just caught a few crabs and ate them, which only increased his hunger, not decreased. It nourished him, but his hunger grew. After a few weeks of sadhana, his hunger was bigger than anything else. In that state, he felt in the bushes an animal moved and he thought it must be a deer, and he took his bow and arrow and shot it blindly. And he heard the arrow found its mark. He thought, with a rich venison or the deer meat, he is going to quench his hunger. He came there and to horror he found it was a cow. Killing a cow was considered the worst thing that an Arya could do. And he was horrified that he killed a cow. So he looked at the cow looked at him with soft, gentle eyes for the last time and closed. It tormented him. He was just distraught, he did not know what to do. At that time, a Brahmana came, he looked at the cow and wailed. He said, "You have killed my cow." And he said, "May you be cursed, you look like a warrior. May you be cursed when you are in battle. When it really matters, your chariot will sink into the earth in a way that you can't reclaim it. And you will be killed when you're helpless, as you killed a helpless cow." Karna fell at his feet and begged, "Please, I was too hungry. I did not know it's a cow. I killed it unknowingly. If you want, I will give you 100 cows. Brahmana said, "This is not an animal for me. This was dearer to me than my daughter. and you're telling me you will give me 100 daughters to replace my daughter. You will be cursed more for this, for having insulted me, that you think you can replace my child with another. Your curse is confirmed with double curse. Karna wandered on, not knowing where to go. He could shoot a speck of dust with his arrows, but what to do? He is not a Kshatriya. Nobody will take him into your battle. He can't get into your contest. He wandered on. And the Pandavas and Kauravas came to a graduation ceremony of their martial arts, and they were having kind of a display. Not really a competition, more a display. But it is done as a display to build confidence in the citizenry. The whole citizenry of Hastinapur has gathered, and the young princes want to display their capabilities so that people feel confident they have young men who will protect them. People feel confident there are young men who will bring wealth and well-being to their nation. But between the Pandavas and Kauravas, it is not a display, it's a competition unto death within themselves. So the display started, various things happened. Obviously Bhima and Duryodhana fought till they were exhausted, nobody able to beat each other. Everybody displayed their thing, and the final event is Arjuna's event, because his archery has gained magical dimensions. Archery and occult was seriously married in those times. So he used his occult weaponry and created mountains. He created Himalayas in the stadium. People were awestruck that snow-clad mountains stood up like this and disappeared. He created oceans, he created wind, he created desert, he created this, forest, and whatever they wanted. Out of occult powers, he just created this, and he just burrowed himself into the desert and came out of a mountain. He jumped into an ocean and came out of a cave. Like this, he displayed his art, nobody else to match him, and he was enjoying the attention. And people were awestruck that somebody could do such magical things. When all this was happening, a golden warrior strolled into the stadium. His very demeanor and his bearing was such, people held their breath and watched him. Okay, who is he? Is this a surprise? And it was a surprise because nobody knew who he is. Karna walked into the stadium. He kind of gate crashed into the display because he's been dying to display his capabilities, and there's no place for him. Then he said, "Oh Arjuna, when there is no competition, being a winner doesn't mean anything. You run your own 100 meters in your house and say, I'm the champion, I'm the champion. It's no good. When you run with the best in the world, that's competition, isn't it?" So he said, "Oh Arjuna, winning a competition when there are no competitors is not victory." And without another word, he started displaying his occult and archery. And everything was way better than what Arjuna did. His mountains were taller, oceans were bigger, winds were stronger, forests were thicker, everything. His occult was better than Arjuna's, his archery was way better than Arjuna's. So when Duryodhana saw there is an archer for taking, because Duryodhana's biggest concern is, among his brothers, there is no archer. He is confident one day he will beat Bhima. He is confident many of his brothers will kill Nakula and Sahadeva. He is confident they can knock down Yudhishthira one day by just giving a sermon on dharma. But he is only worried about Arjuna because there is no archer to match him. When he saw Karna and his competence, he immediately grabbed him. He said, when Karna came and he showed all this, Arjuna interfered and said, "This man is not a Kshatriya, who is he? Whose son are you? How dare you walk into this competition?" Bhima stood up and said, "Whose son are you? Reveal this." Now, a great archer who is better than Arjuna suddenly shrank in confidence when they asked, "Who is your father?" He said, "My father is Adhiratha." Then they said, "Oh, you're a Sutaputra and you have entered this stadium, just leave. This is for Kshatriyas." Then Duryodhana saw the greatest opportunity in his life is sitting right in front of him and he is not going to let it pass by. He said, "No way." He stood up and pleaded on behalf of Karna to the king. He said, "Oh father, how can this happen? In the Shastras say there are three ways a man can become a king. Somebody can become a king because he is born to a king, or because he defeated a king in his skill and valor, or he has taken a kingdom, he has built a kingdom by himself, that he created a kingdom, so he is a king." So Karna is right now here, and if this is a problem that Arjuna does not want to compete with him because he's sure to lose, just because he is not a king, here I will make him a king. There is a small kingdom of ours, far away lands, which is called as Anga, which is presently known as Bangladesh. He said, "The kingdom of Anga is without a king. Here I will coronate Karna as a king." And he brought the priest and instant coronation he did, and he said, "He is Angaraja, he is the king of Anga. Now, let not Arjuna hide behind somebody's birth. I don't care who his father is. I embrace Karna as my friend." And he hugged him and he said, "You are my brother and you are a king." So the archer that he was looking for walked into his lap, and Karna was overwhelmed because his whole life he was discriminated against because of his presumed birth, of low birth or whatever. And here, a king's son stood up for him, embraced him, made him a king right there. So his loyalty was bound for life. You will see this loyalty without reason sometimes took such disastrous turns over a period of time. So situations come later on. You saw the things that he said when Draupadi is in the state that she was. That is not him, but that is him. This is what human beings make of themselves. It doesn't matter how much goodness is invested in you, but if you invest in bitterness, this is what human beings make of themselves. If he was happy, if he was not bitter, he could have changed the course of everything. Karna is an indomitable warrior. He could have stood by his friend and won anything that he wanted and made his friend into a great emperor, and he would sit next to him always, and he is also a king. They could have lived well, both of them. But because of this bitterness, in many ways it is Karna who turns everything wrong. It does not matter. Shakuni is always doing things, but still it is Karna's advice which always seals the deal for Duryodhana. After everything is done, he looks at Karna, "What shall we do?" Karna says, "This is it, we have to do this." Simply out of bitterness that somebody referred to him as low-born or high-born, right now he is highly placed. He is not happy about that, he is bitter. This bitterness takes him into disastrous life story. Dies in the battle in a bad way. And he's a man of phenomenal sense of integrity and generosity, but all this is lost when I say phenomenal sense of generosity and integrity, when war becomes inevitable, when Krishna comes to sue for peace, Duryodhana and Karna try to take him captive. He comes as a messenger of peace. He says, let me give it a last chance. Everything is gone bad, battle is on, almost on. People have arrayed themselves on either side, everybody is ready to fight. But Krishna says, let's give peace one more chance. The Pandavas said, don't go, because it is not even safe to go there, they're just ready for anything. Krishna says, it doesn't matter, I'll give it one more try. Let's see if we can avoid this cruel war. And he comes here. He kind of engineers that his path crosses Karna's path. He comes to Karna and he says, why are you doing this to yourself? This is not what you are. And let me tell you what is your parentage. Suddenly Karna breaks down. He always wanted to know who he is, where did he come from, who let him off in that river in that little box. Krishna said, you are the son of Kunti, your father is Surya Deva. Karna breaks down. Suddenly, he realizes he's been actively trying to nurture hatred towards these five people, even though it was not naturally so. Because he has gratitude for Duryodhana, somewhere he believes he must hate these five people. Though there is no hatred in his heart, he works it up all the time and comes out with meaner than… If Shakuni says one mean thing, he will say the next mean thing. He won't stop there, because he's working up his hatred always, trying to prove his loyalty, trying to be grateful forever for what Duryodhana has done to him, accepting him as a king, giving him a position and place in the palace. So Karna breaks down and says, who else knows this? Krishna says, Kunti knows this and Bhishma knows this. Karna breaks down even more. If Bhishma knew this, why? Why is he so angry with me? Why does he dislike me so much? Krishna says he does not dislike you, but he knows your fate. He is trying to get you out of the way, but you are determined to be in the way. He is doing everything to somehow get you out of the way, because he knows if you are out of the way, Duryodhana will never have the courage to do what he is heading to do. But you are not going out of the way. Come with me. Come join your brothers. It is unbecoming of you to fight against your own brothers. Come and join them, war is inevitable. You join that side, most probably Duryodhana will back off. Karna goes down on his knees, unable to bear his emotion. But then bravely stands up and says, I cannot give up my friend, and goes back to Duryodhana. One more attempt will be made on him. Indra, who is the father of Arjuna, knows well that if Arjuna and Karna stands in battle, Karna will win. So what makes Karna who he is in his previous life, he was Dhambodbhava, a Kshatriya who unleashed terror across lands, because his whole thing is glory. He is phenomenally capable, a warrior of phenomenal capability, and because he is Surya's son, he has a kavacha. He had 1,000 kavachas, they say. So Nara Narayana together, that is current Krishna and Arjuna together, broke 999 kavachas of Dhambodbhava. And when he saw there's only one more, he went back to his father, the sun god. And now once again he's born as socially illegitimate son of Kunti. And he has this kavacha. So he has this thing, in the morning every day, he prays to sun god, not knowing sun god is his father. And immediately after his prayer, if anybody comes and asks him anything, he will give it to them. Knowing this, Indra will disguise himself as a Brahmana and come. But before he comes, Surya Deva comes to save him and tells him, Indra will come and ask for your kavacha, don't give him. Give him anything you want, don't give him. If you give this, you will die in the battle. Then he says to his father, Father, the only thing that I have in my life is honor. My life means nothing to me. You are asking me to give away my honor. I have vowed immediately after my prayers, anybody who asks anything, I will not say no, and I will not say no, and that's all. Surya Deva pleads with him, don't do this. But when Indra comes and asks, without hesitation, this armor which was stuck to his body, he chops it off, he takes his sword and cuts it out. He peels the skin and gives away his armor to his father, to Indra, knowing fully well this means sure defeat in the battle. So his sense of honor, his sense of justice, his sense of his word is so big within himself. One more attempt will be made on him. This is a real mean attempt. When battle is on, or just about on, Kunti comes to him. His battle is on already, but he is not fighting because Bhishma says, if Karna is fighting, I will not be the chief of the army. I will not be the commander of the army if Karna is fighting. So Karna, a great warrior, is a bench sitter in the war. That is the worst thing for him. His whole life is about glory in the battle, glory in the battle, but he is a bench sitter. He cannot fight because Bhishma says he will not be the commander and nobody wants that. So he is just sitting in his tent. War is going on. His blood is raging, he wants to fight, but he cannot fight, sits there. What if he cannot fight? That is not how it is. They have lived for this, they want to fight. Their whole life is about being warriors. And if they cannot fight, there's nothing else they can do. So it is as good as chopping off his hands and legs. Simply sits there with the strength that he has in his body, the skill that he has, not to go into the battle. When the battle is raging, to sit here hands tied is the worst thing that could happen to him, but he sits there because there is no other way, in utter shame. Then Kunti comes to him, and when he sees her for the first time, he knows that all these days he looked at her in some other way. But for the first time he knows that she's his mother. He completely breaks down and hugs her. And after all the emotion is over, Kunti says, you just come with me. You come with me, you will be the king, not Yudhishthira, because you are the eldest. And Yudhishthira will have no problem. Joyfully he will hand over the kingdom to you. He's been doing it all along. Karna, with tears in his eyes, shakes his head. She goes further and she says, you can have Draupadi. She's the queen. If you become the king, she will be your wife. He looks at her with a certain, who are you? Because he desired Draupadi and he went into the contest but because she said she will not marry a Suta, he came out, she says, you can… Draupadi will be your queen, you will be the king, you come with me. Karna says, I will not desert my friend when he needs me most. I know I am on the wrong side, but this is my fate, this is my destiny, I don't wish to change it. Bhargava, Parashurama has blessed me that I will have glory in war, and that's all I seek. But I will not. Mother, don't stay here for one more moment, leave. Don't stay here for a moment more, because my heart may weaken. I do not want to give up my friend at this hour. He stood by me, I will not let him down now. And he goes to his death. Karna knows they're going to lose the overall battle, but for him, the only thing that really matters is he want to have the glory of ending a man's life who is believed to be the greatest Kshatriya ever, who is Arjuna. He wants to kill Arjuna and then he doesn't mind, even if he loses the battle, because he knows Krishna will not let the Kauravas win. If everything goes bad, he will enter the battle himself and he will see that it is won. So his thing is only glory. And by now, he knows that Pandavas are his own brothers. So he wants glory. So one by one, he attacks Pandava brothers, he defeats Yudhishthira, disarms him, comes close to him. When Yudhishthira, terrified and ready to die, stands in front of Karna, unarmed. Karna comes and pokes him on the chest with his bow, with the tip of his bow, and says, I don't think men like you should be fighting on a battlefield when I am here. It's best you go back to your wife. Maybe it's not the time for you, probably. Maybe it's the other brother. He is taunting, saying, go back to your wife. But maybe, oh, you can't go back, maybe this is not the time. He's not giving up that taunt. Then he defeats Bhima and taunts him. He says, with all this muscle, what are you going to do? Like a bull you have grown. If I want, I take off your head, but what is the use taking off the head of children? Go. Nakula, Sahadeva, he does the same things because he's promised that he will not kill them. He's keeping his promise, but he wants to have glory that he defeated them. He lives for glory, and he's willing to die for it. The only one he wants to kill is Arjuna. When Indira came and asked for Karna's kavacha or his armor, you remember? The sun god warned him. In spite of that, he gave away his kavacha or his armor. At that time, even Indra was pleased with his sense of sacrifice, because he's promised, even though he knows that it's sure death if he removes this, in spite of that, he gave it away. At that time, Karna asks, give me your Shakti for the kavacha and the kundala. So men will say, Indra gave Karna his own ayudha in return for what he took from him. The Shakti will not save my life, that is doomed anyway. But I feel strange love for you and I want to protect your reputation. Because what you're doing is so dastardly. Knowing fully well, I'm going into the battle, you're asking for my armor. This is the most dastardly thing. The king of gods doing this, your reputation will go. So at least give me your Shakti Astra, so that people in future will at least feel that Indra did some exchange. And anyway, this Shakti is not going to save my life. It is just that it'll save your reputation. The man is always, within himself, is strutting with a certain glory about himself, because glory is everything for him. Then Indra says to Karna, win or lose the war, it's a small matter. Today you have won immortal fame. With the arms you have given me, I name you Vaikartana for cutting your kavacha from your flesh. And men will say ever after that the greatest of all alms givers was not Indra but Karna. As long as the world lives, Karna, your fame shall live in it. And that's all he wanted. So both of them got what they wanted. And now the battle is on, he is without the kavacha, but he's got Shakti. This one astra, he can kill Arjuna, he's saving it for Arjuna. He will end Arjuna and then he is quite powerless without that and he will be killed by somebody. Ghatotkacha is letting loose. By now, the night rules are over. Night also they're fighting. This occult powers of Bhima's son, who came from the south, is such. They don't even know which way to fight, which direction to face, because illusory armies are all over the place, even from the sky. So Kaurava army doesn't even know which way to turn, and indiscriminate slaughter, it's a free run for Pandavas. Then it is night time, particularly in the night, Ghatotkacha becomes… because these people broke the rule of the night and started the war in the night. When they were fighting in the day, Ghatotkacha was just one more warrior. But in the night, he is a different kind, because his occult powers come to full flowering in the night and he is just letting loose havoc. So then Duryodhana looked at this, he said, this night, Kaurava army will end. He tells Karna, use the Shakti, kill this giant. Karna hesitates because he's saving this one thing for Arjuna. If he uses this up, this dream of killing Arjuna will be over. He hesitates. Suddenly Duryodhana looks at him suspiciously. What is the matter? What is the matter? He has this problem that maybe somebody's loyalty has shifted. Man lives in that kind of fear. He questions Karna's loyalty. So Karna says, I have come here to die for you. I have not come here to win the war. I have not come here to rule. I have not come here to get a kingdom. I have come here to die for you. I am not doing anything less than what I should do. If you insist, I will use the Shakti. And he used the Shakti and brought down Ghatotkacha. And suddenly, all the occult powers were gone and it was a normal battle once again. Once Krishna came to know Karna has used up the Shakti, then he told Arjuna, tomorrow morning you must get Karna, that's it. He's finished. So next day morning they get Karna in a way that is not usually approved, but by then nothing is approved or disapproved, people are doing whatever they want, everybody. Karna is carrying the bondage of two curses in his life. One thing is, Parashurama has cursed him, when you really need it, you will forget the mantras. Another is the Brahmin whose cow was killed has cursed him that when you're fighting battle and when it's a moment of life or death, at that moment your chariot wheels will sink. And when you're helpless, as you killed my helpless cow, when the cow was simply helpless, unprotected, you killed it. Just like that you will die. So, Karna fighting Arjuna, a lot of drama happens and then Karna's wheel goes down. He comes down and trying to get the wheel out. In normal battle rules, when it is down like that, they don't shoot at him, they wait for him to get back on the chariot. So Karna says, I'm sure you're Kshatriya enough not to shoot at me when I'm down. Of course, Arjuna also thinks he is a warrior enough to not to shoot, and he waits. Krishna asks, what are you waiting for? Now let him release his chariot wheel. Krishna's, his patience is running out. He says, kill him. Arjuna protests, but he's unarmed. It does not matter, kill him. He's trying to get his chariot wheel out, break the chariot. So he breaks the chariot. Then Karna knows that they're going to fight even if he's down. So he picks up his bow. He says, break his bow, breaks it when he's standing totally unarmed. He says, take off his head. So Arjuna takes off his head. So Karna goes down. A great man and a great tragedy and a great mistake all his life. Not evil, just a big mistake his.
தாய்க்கு நீ மகனில்லை தம்பிக்கு அண்ணனில்லை தாய்க்கு நீ மகனில்லை தம்பிக்கு அண்ணனில்லை ஊர் பழியேற்றாயடா நானும் உன் பழி கொண்டேனடா நானும் உன் பழி உள்ளத்தில் நல்ல உள்ளம் உறங்காதென்பது வல்லவன் வகுத்ததடா கர்ணா வருவதை எதிர்கொள்ளடா மன்னவர் பழியேற்கும் கண்ணல் பணி செய்ய மன்னவர் பணியேற்கும் கண்ணல் பணி செய்ய உன்னடி பணிவானடா கர்ணா மன்னித்து அருள்வாயடா கர்ணா மன்னித்து அருள்வாயடா செஞ்சோற்று கடல் தீர்க்க சேராத இடம் சேர்ந்து வஞ்சத்தில் விழுந்தாயடா கர்ணா வஞ்சத்தில் விழுந்தாயடா.
In India, there's a whole culture, people who are conversant with Mahabharata. Karna is a kind of an anti-hero. There's a whole lot of people. Even here, there are Karna fans all over the place. They're a little distressed, I'm not saying good enough things about him. What else can I say? A great being gone bad. So, his life is a kind of a continuous tragedy. He's always miserable because he cannot come to terms with what he's being labeled as. He gets many things. From being a charioteer's son, he becomes a king, and his advice is the most valued advice for his king. In spite of that, he's always miserable because somewhere deep inside he knows everything that he's doing is wrong. He knows it's wrong, but his loyalty is strong. So he continues to do it. It goes to various pitches of sense of tragedy and sacrifice. Sacrifice and tragedy, alternately his life moves like this. in a way, people would like to see for no fault of his. I think that's what even the song is saying, right?
For no fault of his, he's placed in a predicament that he finds himself. He cannot be a brother, he cannot call himself the son of Kunti, and it's actually no fault of his, and he has to be loyal to the friend who gave him shelter. In short, he is the hero, and actually he is a good man, this song says, and it's Krishna's doing that he lands himself in the position.
So, it may be no fault of yours. If you happen to be in the wrong place, you could get hit by life. It may be no fault of yours. The fault is that you're in the wrong place, that's the fault. He displays his sense of sacrifice continuously, but no good comes out of it, because one thing that mattered too much to him kind of destroyed him. What mattered to him too much was that he wants to be somebody that he is not, at least in the society. Maybe he is in reality, but in the society, he wants to be somebody who he is not. Because of this obsession, he continuously blunders. He's an intelligent man, he had enough sense to see that what Duryodhana is doing is wrong, but he goads him. He doesn't just participate, or he's not just a passive participant, he's an active participant, and not only that, he goads him many times. Very easily, Karna could have turned the direction of the whole story. Duryodhana's life could have been saved if only Karna used his intelligence rather than his loyalty and gratitude, which he failed to use, and continuously he went from one blunder to another. Karna, when Kunti comes, when the war is on, and says, please, you are capable of killing all my 5 sons, and you are my son too. Don't kill your brothers. Just come, join up with us, everything will be yours. Karna struggles because all his life his struggle was wanting to know who he is, and here his mother is standing with him, but he cannot take her because of his loyalty to his friend. Rightly so, not at that stage. If it had happened much earlier, maybe he would have looked at it differently. Now the battle is on, now to abandon and go that side would be disastrous, not disastrous, it would be dastardly to do it. He wouldn't do such a thing. We have to appreciate that he did not do such a thing. But Kunti pleads because all that she has worked for is going to be destroyed the moment he enters the battlefield. You need to understand why this talk about how one man can win the war, how one man can win the war. Because the loss of war was such that if a man is fighting, one individual is fighting another individual, nobody else would attack them. Here and there they broke it later on when it got very intense, that's a different matter. But normally the law is such, if 2 archers are battling, somebody cannot go and poke him with a sword. If 2 swordsmen are fighting, somebody cannot shoot him with an arrow. So this is all set. And most of the time, battles were settled, armies gathered for a battle, but then usually the wise kings would decide, one swordsman from this side, one swordsman from that side will fight. Whoever wins, it's decided. Once they've agreed, not going back on the word. Not going back on your word is the biggest thing in the whole process, which causes so many disasters, but still people stick to it because that's very important. It is sometimes stretched to such extremes. About Karna and the fear of Karna that Kunti has is because in the battlefield, if he stands for individual contest, with any of his other with any of our other 5 sons, for sure they will be dead, including Arjuna, though Arjuna does not believe so. And Krishna is aware of it too, that if they stand for battle, he clearly tells Arjuna in the battlefield, Karna will easily kill you. You have no chance against him. You have to kill him when he's down. He says, no, this is not Kshatriya dharma, I will not do it. If you don't do it, you will be dead. If you don't do it, I will do it. So Karna says, when the mother goes on begging for the lives of her other 5 sons, he says, I will spare the 4. Arjuna I will not spare, because their enmity was from the first moment they saw each other, it was on. He said, you only claimed to the world that you have only 5 sons, though you knew you have 6. If I kill Arjuna, you will still have 5. Your number game is going great, so no problem. Arjuna and Karna, both are war machines. That's their only dream in their life, is to be the best archer. Who is the best archer? Arjuna and Karna, if you compare them, in every way, Karna is better equipped, but he makes wrong choices. And that's the thing with life. It doesn't matter what you have, if you make wrong choices, it goes somewhere else. So this is a classic example between Arjuna and Karna. Karna is elder to him, more qualified in every way, a better warrior, a better archer, a better man. But Arjuna is the man in the whole scene because he makes the right choices. Existence is not making a judgment who is good or bad. Whoever does the right things, for him it yields. It is only social situations which are trying to judge people as good and bad. It is only individual human beings who are trying to judge you as good and bad. Everybody, all the Karna fans think it's unfair that he should be put through this. I think it's perfectly fair, the existence is perfectly fair. Society may not be fair, but the existence is perfectly fair that unless you do the right things will not happen to you. If existence was not like this, there would be no value for doing the right things. There would be no value for human intelligence. There would be no value for the right judgment that a human being makes. Nothing would be valuable. If you can do the wrong things and right things will happen to you. Nothing that we value in our lives would be valuable if you could do wrong things and still right things will happen to you. Life doesn't work like that.